Hey everybody, welcome to During Business Hours. My name's Christopher, and this is Israel with Ad Central. Hey, how you doing today?
Hey man, I'm doing good. Thank you so much for inviting me today and talking the show.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely. You're on the East Coast, no?
I'm on the East Coast. I'm in DC area.
How's DC doing?
It's not bad. I mean, it's nice out here, good weather. Finally, kind of getting to that fall mood, so not bad.
They got a big budget over there, so they keep it clean. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen our content. My biggest complaint with California right now is the way they're treating the homeless over the everyday citizens, and it's getting pretty bad to where we've had our home vandalized once, and we've had a break-in once by a homeless.
No.
I would say a drug addict over a homeless, but turns out he was living on the streets, and it's been crazy. They refuse to do anything about it. Like, they are held to a different standard than most of the everyday citizens, so it's getting nuts. Where do you come from? Where's your home?
So I am originally from Mexico. I'm from the south. I'm from the Yucatan Peninsula. There's a city there called Merida, which is like the capital of that state, and moved to the States in 2010 for grad school. I am an electrical engineer, and then I went to biomedical engineering into electrophysiology. And I did, I think, 4 years of my PhD, and it kind of like ran along with my shop for like a year. And, I decided to make the move. So closed my master's degree, left the PhD undone. And yeah, so that's, brief history.
Well, so okay, now I'm really interested because that's not something that you've said. We know each other in the cell phone repair groups and what you do at Ad Central because you're
Yeah.
multifaceted with that alone. We'll get into it.
Thanks.
But so you are an electrical engineer with a master's?
Yeah.
Why are you
Yeah.
in the business of cell phones?
So I'm an entrepreneur by heart. Both my parents are business professors. And funny thing is that, one of the careers that I wanted was business, and they encouraged me not to. They said, your business acumen should be enough, and like when you kind of work along with another major, I think that that would be more powerful, kind of thing. So of course, coming from a Mexican culture where, your dad has that like strong arm and you don't have an option to say no,
Yeah.
which I'm grateful for. I ended up going that route, but I started my first business when I was 16. Um,
And what was that
so
like?
it was fun. So I started by tutoring. So I did, tutoring on math, physics, chemistry, and English. So, I would have kids come over at my house, and I would, tutor. I would charge per the hour, and it kind of like slowly outgrew me and my space. So, we at the end, like, we had a team that essentially I don't know, man, we would have 50, 60 kids every day on Monday, like from Monday through Friday. And then Saturdays we would do prep for like college exams and things like that. So it
Tutoring,
was kind of
yeah, tutoring leads into what you're doing now because you're teaching or training, but you're essentially doing the same teaching through the multi-marketing, right? The
yeah.
central marketing. So you're teaching everyone else how to sell their business in a way, just on a grander scale, I might add. What you're doing with Ad Central is nuts, man. I applaud you. And
Thanks.
I've seen so many companies that have promised what you're doing in ways that you're doing it, but so fantasy like, oh no, this is what it's going to build, it's going to become, and what we're going to do in a few years, and then never to be heard from again when they get their capital. It's always fun. There's a lot of dreamers in the groups.
Yeah, I think we're all a bunch of dreamers. It's just that's the entrepreneurship spirit. Like that's we see something, we have a vision, and we kind of go after it.
I see it so much differently. For me, most of the entrepreneurs that I've run across in my career, hustlers. People who are they toe the line of the schemer to planner, and especially in California, everyone wants to be the entrepreneur, but it's the people who toe the line of like they're going to do this with the correct morals, the correct way of doing business. That they're like, oh no, I could make money a million ways, but they choose to do it the right way, and those are the ones that succeed. Because in the cell phone industry, you could say you're using OEM parts, not use OEM parts. You could sell them a used thing and it's not really new, so on and so forth. And there's people that do that, but there's a lot of the mall kiosks, as you're aware of. There, everything is original. It's always original.
Everything is yeah, I think there's not. It's kind of interesting, that you say that. I think that a good formula is always thinking long term. There's nothing short term whatsoever. And when you have, I think, that long term vision, it greatly helps, to not, like you said, like not going around, cutting corners or anything like that. So
I believe in it so much, I tattooed it on my body. It says, I don't know if you can say this, but without a goal, you can't score.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's, and then the year after I tattooed it, I started watching Casey Neistat on YouTube. And this guy had it tattooed on him for 20 years previous. And I was like, now everyone's going to think that I got it because of him. And so sure enough, 6 months after I got the tattoo, somebody commented on the Instagram post and was like, Casey Neistat follower. I'm like, no, I appreciate it though. That's good. So what made you came directly here for studying for college?
For grad school.
For grad school. And so what was that like? Was it a stark difference from Mexico?
Not entirely. I think that, I was kind of like, especially high school and college, I was like very into academia. Like I was, I'm a big nerd, I would say. I was a part of like the math, chemistry, physics team for my school to go and, compete and so forth. And I was in the robotics club. So it was a fairly smooth transition coming here as far as like school goes. Obviously, everything outside of school was different. I didn't have any family or I didn't even have a car, man. So someone actually bought me a bicycle. And that's how I would just go, from like my like from my house to college every day. It wasn't far, but it was a very different aspect of life because I came from, having my own businesses to school, being on a budget, and I think that's, over time that kind of built up, right? And I was like, I'm kind of ready to do something again, So one of my now wife's friend, she had a broken 3GS. And well, back a little bit, I did tutoring, but I also worked for a repair center for Samsung when I was in Mexico. And it was kind of funny because I was an electrical engineer, and my dad was like, well, you kind of need to learn more about it, on the practical side. So I was like, all right, well, apply. Of course, they didn't, take me in. I didn't know anything, but I went there and I was like, what happened? What about if I just work for free? Like I'll just be here and work for free,
That's it.
and they couldn't say no. So thankfully, my tutoring aspect of things kind of paid for my gas and my car and things like that. So I was able to learn, and that kind of helped me, have that like technical background. So when I saw that and I asked her, I was like, well, how much are they charging you? And it was like, I don't know, but I want to say it was like $100 or so. I was like, well, I found the part on eBay. So if you want to buy it and you let me keep the little tools, the little like screwdrivers and spudgers and so forth, I was like, I'll do it for that. So obviously she happily did, I got it done. And I was like, that was easy,
the
and I asked her,
that was
and I asked her, I was like, wait, how much are they charging you again? Like this is kind of crazy. So she told me and I was like, there's no way. And, so that really kind of like, I was like, well, this is a good opportunity, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
what if I do Craigslist ads, because they're free. I'm a broke student.
I think we all remember the good days where you could post
Oh my gosh.
50 a day with no flags. And
It was awesome.
I was
So,
working out of my apartment when I started doing the 3GS. The iPhone 4 had just been released. And
no,
I did the same thing. Hey, buy the part, bring it to me. At the time, I had a negative balance on my bank account because I had just gotten sober off of drugs. And so, long story there. But
long story.
yeah, unfortunately, I'm a former heroin addict, 10 years sober. But the
Nice.
fun,
Congrats.
idle hands, devil's worship. I needed to stay busy, but iPhones and Samsungs did that for me. I had everything worked on them 24/7, but I kept all those tools from what I would tell people. Hey, let me keep the little tools. I'll charge
Mhm.
you $20, and it
Yeah.
just farmers markets, Craigslist ads for free. I had people at my apartment at 3 a.m. showing up after the drunken hour, breaking their phones. So I understand that hustle. Yeah, the good old days
Yep.
we call them. The
Yes.
so you went from doing that in Mexico, coming here, grad school, busted your butt. Why didn't you go into electrical engineering? Why'd you transfer
So,
directly to?
I was doing these repairs mostly on Saturdays because I was a grad student, so I had to teach a class, I had to take classes, I had to research, right? So I would always schedule everything from like early morning to whenever I finished, to the point where I literally started at 7 in the morning on Saturday until late, and it started eating on that Sunday, and I started like I was keeping track of my numbers and so forth. And when you are in that like school environment, when someone graduates, they obviously share, right? Like, hey, I got this job at all these big biomedical um, just companies, and I would always ask, how much are you making, or how much do they offer, and they would share with me, and I was like, dang, like if I have to keep studying to get less than what I would make doing phones, that is hard, you know.
I understand. I see people talking now. I think so there was a governor that came out and was like, 4 years of school, straight out, 80 grand a year, or straight into trucking at 120,000. That's a
Yeah.
decision you have to make on your own. And I've tried to tell people when I started doing phones, it's a decision you got to make for what's best for you, whether you want to go to college or not. Because I've done consulting in the past, one on one with people, other business owners, and the thing that people are always struggling with is that they have this minimum idea of what to make daily in their head. Everyone sees those. I want to make $200 a day to make 100,000 a year. I want to make $500 a day to make 750, so on and so forth, or $1 million a year. And it's not focusing on the numbers, but on the amount of turnover you can get for yourself with as minimal harm to your body and mind, because you need to continue this for years and years to come. You got to keep working. You got to live, so to speak. So
Yeah.
you made the decision to transfer your roadmap, so to speak. What happened with the electronics? How did you get to Ad Central?
Man, it's a it's a longer story, but in short, basically, I went into once I had the repair. Well, finally, I opened a repair shop, and we kind of grew to like more than one repair shop. And accidentally, I got into refurbishing because that was cost of goods that I wanted to kind of remove from my P&L. And I ended up going to China, learning refurbishing and getting the equipment. And I don't know if you ever heard about SDS parts,
Yes.
but that was essentially my next gig, right? So we did a lot of refurbishing, selling equipment. We did micro soldering training. Um,
That's what I knew.
and
That's what I knew them from, was the micro soldering training when I was debating I think it was 2016, of taking a course. So that's a few years ago, but um,
yeah,
So you went from, did you, when you did SDS, did you start with the refurbishing, or was it refurbishing and deciding what you were removing from your profit and loss statement? So most people, like for me, I was trying to decide, was I going to go into refurbishing or learn micro soldering? So I went refurbishing and then had a shipment of all my components go, what was it, seized by customs. So I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I got to wait for that refund. And then I battled for that and went into soldering instead. So luckily, but um, some people have that debate of what's the roadmap or what decision you're going to make, because nobody's going to tackle all that at once. But it sounds like you
Mhm.
did on accident.
Yeah, yeah, it was very accidental how everything happened, man. How we got into selling the machines and people, I was teaching how to do this on YouTube. And obviously people were reaching out to us, wanting to buy these machines, the supplies, wanting to come to training. So it just kind of like, everything worked out. Um, and we did, then we moved to micro soldering. We did the micro soldering training at CTIA. And then, that refurbishing kind of like stopped for a little bit because of the aftermarket strain. So we had to, move over and sell parts. And we were growing fairly fast, man. Like we could not keep stock on hand. So if we get a shipment Monday morning, it'll be gone by the end of the day. So, we were struggling to keep, all these stores with parts. So finally, and we ended up kind of like pulling some of my friends, and we were 5, 6 guys that were that they were investing into this, and then finally we got the investment that we kind of waiting for, but didn't go our way. Um, it was hard. That was basically one of the hardest falls that I've had, just because everything was going so well, with all the sales and everything, but there were parts of the business that, I wasn't watching. And,
Mm-hmm.
we just grew very fast. Um, so from that point on, I feel like, one of the things that, has been in my past has been just like be able to establish brands, fast. And, I kind of got into the marketing, business consulting, um, and, that kind of rolled for a little bit. And I joined Mobile Centrics to be part of like the team, for administration stuff, and helping with processes and so forth. And it was just it was a hard part of my life, just because I had just like gotten rid of SDS parts. I was kind of like trying to decide, what do I do? Do I go to the corporate world, or do I go back to owning my own business? Saad and Wakas are good friends, and they said, "Hey man, why don't you come with us?" So I did for a little bit,
So
and after a while,
how hard was that decision to close up SDS parts as a business owner? Because you had, as you said, people were invested into it. Were you the sole business owner, or was it a co-op?
it was a co-op. It was hard emotionally. At that point, man, we had a warehouse in the U.S. and Mexico. We were about to open UK. We had an office in China, so I was traveling. I mean, most of the year, and for my family, it was hard. So when when that was decided, I was fairly down. I overworked myself. I was working 20, 22 hour days. And, there was a point where I could barely walk. So it was a teaching moment for me.
I could imagine. I've never had someone with or had to deal with 6 locations at once, thankfully. But I don't envy you. That sounds like it would wreck your body. Uh,
Yeah, it did. It literally did.
how'd your family? Because you've obviously recovered. You built yourself back up. You're quite a staple in the industry right now for the marketing and the automation sides of things. I didn't see that coming. The idea now at Central, for those who don't know, you do check-ins, you do screens. How do you characterize that type of marketing? Because I always call it
So
McDonald's screens, or menu screens,
it's digital signage.
digital signage.
That's what it is. we have sites, and we have social media. So
which is
those are the four
blessing.
products that we have.
You
We
guys,
actually have a fifth one technically that is diagnostics for both diagnostics, but that's a different kind of market.
I was going to bring that up because what you guys do, you stole my business away from repair lift. I'm just going to say it. Um, I got a quote after I had some bad experiences where I was spending a lot on Google ads. Just a lot of money, not their fault. Google ads was starting to fail, but they transferred more to SEO. And so their SEO cost, because they have such a high margin of things, is pretty high. So for me, I decided to go with a smaller person to run my ads and my SEO, and to have you guys do the automation that they do the exact same thing, but they do it in a way where it's almost everything's branded as elegance over
Mhm.
efficiency. It's supposed to be like we're the best. We have so many people, so many teams, uh, but yours is so easy. It's click, paste, done, automated. Just upload your logo and it's gone. And I've not had one incident of having the same content as someone local to me, but I had that incident numerous times with Repair Lift. So I'm very happy. It's a great product.
Oh, thank you, man. We as we grow, we have definitely put some boundaries there, and we continue to really work on that. So I think exciting things are coming as far as that goes, and I think people are going to be excited about it. So
So
we certainly are.
did Ad Central come about through your collaboration with Waquez and everyone over there, Musa?
Um, Not necessarily, like the idea, but I definitely learned a lot being a mobile centric. So, they're great people. They're very smart. So, I had this vision, and I just, believed in it, and I wanted to get it done. So I was like, hey man, thank you for everything. And I'm ready to kind of move forward. Thankfully, we still are, we still do certain things for mobile centric. So we still have that good relationship, and it's good to kind of like catch up with them, and talk business.
Yeah, no. Sometimes when people end up leaving a space, there's a little resentment for how, fast people can go. Now that how many stores are you guys serving? Because that's something you
we
can say.
we don't disclose that info, and we kind of have that as a policy now. But we serve a good number of stores.
Awesome. I would,
And we
I would hope
moved
so.
away from this industry, which has been, also very very cool to see.
So do you do strictly the cell phone industry? Or are you guys moving out to?
Yeah, we're moving out to other industries. Our platform, the vision of Ad Central really is how to automate everything from beginning to end. And I think that people haven't quite grasped it yet. But the future is basically if you've used check-ins, and the first thing you ask is like, hey, what is the customer name? And then you plug in the phone. You'll be able to interrupt the TV and say, hey, Brad, do you know you need a battery replacement? You know, and because we host your site, the booking appointment will be fed into check-ins, right? So all this automation will come to a full circle very soon, and we're just very excited about it. Like I think that itself is a platform that if you wanted to do it for your store with a software company, it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah.
But you can do that with a few clicks with us, and that idea is essentially being replicated over other industries, to where it doesn't matter if you're in a barbershop, or it doesn't matter if you are in a salon, or whatever you're in,
Or a coffee shop in
coffee shop.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I got a
So
cousin who owns 4 shops that he would absolutely die for that software. He's got 3 that he's currently building, so he has almost 5. And it's definitely something. If you're outside of the cell phone industry, I'll put him in contact because he's got hopes of having 70, 80 stores in a couple of years. So
Yeah.
it would save him quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think that that's a big part of just a retail store life or a business. Just the technology that you're able to have is going to help you scale. And people don't realize this, but as you grow more and more, if you don't have a way to scale, you're going to be stuck, right? So I think that people that fully utilize Ad Central today, have an advantage, a competitive advantage over someone who doesn't. You know, um, so the fact that with the status you can notify your customers, like that was one of my pet peeves. Like sometimes the easy repairs, sure, you have the part, you replace it, that's great. But when when someone comes with a Surface tablet and you have to order the part, and then the eBay guy, doesn't send it or whatever, it's hard to remember to call that specific customer. So we have a status, where you can say, part is on the way, and you can set it on check-ins to say every 3 or 4 days, send this text. Hey, we haven't forgotten about you. Your part's on the way. So even that little reminder, right, to be sent to the customer every 3 or 4 days is huge. Like, yes. I mean, it will save you from an angry customer, because he cannot tell you that you didn't send something to him.
Before that, because we're still putting that to use, trying to get new techs trained. We saw something similar to that when we were working with Ubreak. They had a system where they would remind the tech who got the job to contact or update if it was ever pending for too long. So I think I messaged you. I was like, man, this is a fantastic idea. I don't know if you'd updated with the delete button yet. That was the only thing I had created some testers I needed to remove.
Yeah, now you can archive it now. So, it will be out of your way.
What struggles in the marketing space are you finding as a business versus like the cell phone industry itself in repairs? Because most of the cell phone industry, we can navigate or maneuver, so to speak, very gently with new part, new tech, or new customer. One of the three can get changed out and everything's solved. So what road bumps are you having a company like that?
That's a good question. I think overall, honestly, you'll be surprised the amount of people, even in our industry, that struggle with technology. So that's one of the things that we're always kind of amazed. Be like, wow, like we still have to do some work here, like to improve our platform to make it where no one should have a pump, right? And we're very aware of that. I think that the major issue, if you will, is that we are not known, right, in other industries as we are in the cell phone repair industry. So when we on board, when we are trying to get a client, it will be a little harder than in our own industry. That's really the difference. But once people see what we're capable to do, like it's a non-brainer. So it's it's kind of encouraging.
I found in previous businesses or ones that I'm still associated with, it's always better to go to the supplier and have the supplier sell you if you're selling something to, a front end business. So say, like I'd mentioned, the coffee shop for my cousin, if you went to the roasters they buy from, and you're like, hey, we can automate everything for your customers. Boom, provide it that way, reach out the leads, and it's customer service everywhere. It gets you word of mouth is much better than SEO, in my opinion, because nobody believes the ads nowadays. There's so much everywhere that it's hard to say, okay, well, Ad Central says they can do something versus, well, someone's got a demo and they know they can do it. So it makes it a little easier. Is there, because there's so many people coming to the cell phone industry now, as you see in the groups, is there anything as somebody who is, from outside of the US that's done it, succeeded in a way, still killing it, that you'd want to say to those people like who are just starting out, especially nowadays with the 13s, the 14s, the media, the challenges of marketing? How would you try and get them some wise advice?
I think that we have that all the time, those kind of questions, right? And it's kind of fun to be able to see people that are thriving and people that are not, and there's a trend there. And usually the trend is that people are able to identify what the opportunities are, so device sales, or accessories, being able to track a little more of like what the attach rates are, they're a little more analytical about things. So I would always, encourage people to always measure an ROI. It doesn't have to be very fancy, like, oh, I need to like see my P&Ls to the detail, but I do need to understand, do I have the right people? And that's a big one, the right people like actually, doing the sales, our ticket average, is it where it should be? Am I buying enough stock or am I overstocking? Like all these things matter, and it doesn't matter what industry you go into, you're always going to run into the same issues as a business owner, So usually a good business owner will be able to thrive in any industry. And I think that we need to see ourselves as a retail store and not as a repair store, and if you're paying for that retail space and you have that real estate and you have the marketing down and someone who can sell, think about like, hey, how can I, improve my revenue, so yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity still in this industry, and I think that it'll evolve for sure. It'll evolve.
That's great advice, because I recently, like I said to you before, I went to Oklahoma to finish up some things, and on the way out there was a kid who was selling his store. I won't say names or anything, but I stopped by, and I really, most people for some reason, I'm noticing a trend where they don't keep an inventory list. They don't know what their margins on their prices are. They don't know their stock analytics. They don't know when their last cost of goods was. Nothing about it is technical. And so I was like, okay, well, get me an inventory sheet and give me your square lists. I want to know, because he uses Square, what your sales were, what your returns were. Let me see what the deposits were. And he had none of this information. And it was almost like he had let it go for a few years and expected a certain premium for what he had built. Yet I noticed he had never paid for advertising or any SEO work and didn't have a website. So I'm like, so what am I buying? I'm buying your name and an empty store for a certain amount of money. So I had unfortunately turned it down, but I hope that what I had talked to him about, why I wouldn't buy this business, he had said if he didn't sell it, he would probably try and rerun it or remanage it. I'm hoping it sparks some knowledge in the kid, because he seems like he's a bit of a hustler, go-getter. He also wants to be a real estate agent, so best of luck to him either way. But it was a good flight.
Hopefully we learn from our mistakes. I think that's the best thing. So even if you made a mistake, if you learn from it and recover, we're good.
My problem is I never remember the technical terms of what I do. I just know how I track everything. You know what I mean? So I misspeak a lot on when I talk about, you said ROI, and I'm like, oh, return on investment. That's not what I do with, and I'm thinking to myself, that's the wrong term for my stock and holdings. So what's the goal for Ad Central? Give me a 2-year plan and a 10-year plan.
We see ourselves as really automating retail stores. Not only in store, but outside of store, right? So anything where you need to interact with a client, we will be there, and we will take, all the information that you have in order to convert that into a marketing side. So even when you add photos before and after, you'll be able to push that to your social media, to your website, to your TV, right? So we're just helping streamlining all of these processes that usually are broken into, if if I'm taking pictures before and after, why would I have to take another picture to post to social media? Like, I should be able just to take it, right, and send it off. So small things like that will make a difference. We have a couple more products that are coming on the pipeline that I think people will be very impressed. And the idea is just to be able to provide technology to small businesses. That's really our goal.
So when you were building SDS and you were working with Centrix after that, what's the difference in your mind or your headspace now that is different from then?
Man, one, I think a failure will teach you many things.
Oh yeah.
So it definitely helped me with just being a little more patient, not outwork myself like I used to, even though sometimes I still struggle with that. And I think that the vision that I have is way bigger than it used to be, right? We are now talking always, any internal conversation that we have at Central is how do we take, over businesses or retail stores globally. And when I was at SES Parts, even though I was kind of thinking about it, like it was very, very localized. We were not thinking, hey, how do we get into these Fortune 500 companies that, that we now, do. So I think that's a major mind shift. And just being able to learn how to bring talent to the table, how to retain talent, how to make sure that everyone is happy and everyone has that vision that we're working towards. It's not only about, us growing as, personally, financially, but it's everyone needs to grow, So very, very different culture that we have at Central than, we used to at SES Parts. And I think that is a major difference.
What's your retirement goal for a family? Because you said you have a family, you got kids, right?
Yeah. I have 4 kids. So yeah. Weekends are hectic.
Oh, I have 2, and I'm already at the mercy. I would consider myself a good dad, not a great dad, because what is that? And those people are like, I'm a fantastic dad. I'm like, there's no way to be a fan. You're always going to let your kids down at something. So, and that's going to hurt much more when you put yourself on that pedestal. My father was very stern. He's Native American. And so everything was either the belt or the walk. You got to do it in his way. If you walked his walk, or you got the belt. But I loved him. He was great. Still in our lives, but definitely a different type of man now than he was when I was younger, because life has changed. But when I ask you what your goal is for the future, a lot of people who have kids nowadays, they just assume that they're going to work forever. There's no idea of retirement. And so I'm starting to see the idea of the legacy of like wanting to be in my kids' lives a lot more. So I've stepped back from work 7 days a week. Now I'm at 5 days, and I'm still working long hours. So I cut the hours down, and I'm trying to be home more often, hence the move to Oklahoma. But I see that your business is thriving. So how is the home life?
Home life is good. Thankfully, I've been married for 11 years. So it's I'm 33.
Dude, you look young. I'm 32 and I look 50. I'm obviously.
I usually don't get that. Usually people think that I'm like 40. So.
Oh, I thought you were.
I got married young.
Josh. So I figured, if you guys are around the same age, you don't look so old. But we haven't had that conversation. You don't just come out and ask, "Hey, how old are you?" 11 years, dang.
But we've been married for a long time, and it's way better than it used to be, right? Because She knows the entrepreneurial spirit. She never imagined that I was an entrepreneur when we got married, even though I said it. She was like, when we met, you were, a grad student, and I always, wanted the 9 to 5 kind of job, for you, so you can be home and forget. But that never happened. So, I think that what we believe, or what I believe, is that I just, and this is kind of what I say openly, in our meetings and so forth. Like, my dream is to see everyone that is at Central's kids to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
We are building our kids' future, and we definitely have certain guidelines, and we push each other to, stop working, like, you're done, like, go with your family, go to the gym or eat healthy. So we do have that culture internally. We use Slack for communication because we don't want to be WhatsApping or texting people where they feel obligated to respond, so if they don't want to have Slack on their phone, that's fine. Like, we don't, we want you to respond when you are available there. And we want you to have a balanced life. So there are obviously, times when we can't, when we're traveling. We just came from Europe from like a 2-week trip. And then right after we turn around, we had to go to another conference. So that's hard, right? But like, and it's kind of great when you really find talent that you don't have to worry about pushing them to work. It's the other way around. You have to push them to not work, like, stop, like, it's good. Don't feel bad to take a Friday. Like, we make ourselves like, you just to think about it. So if someone is off, don't message him unless you truly need that person, right? So things like that really help. And even for me, like, they know that most weekends I'm off, unless there's something going on, there's a release going on, something happened, I will, I go, and I love doing sports or hiking, or my kids rock climbing and things like that. So I try to spend time with them, outside of the weekly hectic life sometimes, even though I make myself try to stop and go read to my kids.
4 kids. What's the ages on those?
So the youngest is 2 years old and the oldest is 7. So they're all 18 months apart.
I got a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and my 6-year-old is my princess. I love her.
Yeah.
I can do no wrong in my eyes. I'm telling you, she gets no talking, no nose to the wall, no whoopings, no nothing. And my 2-year-old is bulletproof. I'm telling you, he could at this moment jump in front of a car, and I'm pretty sure the car would bounce off. He is wild, and I couldn't imagine 4 children 18 months apart and doing that over and over. It would be so much more stress, and I'm already bad with time management. So I could only imagine, man, you're going through it. That's a lot.
Well, my wife is definitely a warrior, so she's great. She makes sure that they have food and they have clothes.
all the normal mothering stuff.
Yeah.
That's good, man. I'm glad to see that you guys are doing so well. That's awesome. How would you, if you were in cell phone repair industry, or say any other business that you were electrical manufacturing, how would you be doing, or how do you think you would be doing not being in the industry you're in now?
Well, I've always loved software, and for so long I've said, man, we need to do something with software, until finally it happened. So I'm very happy where I'm at, but I think that I'm the kind of person that my brief history tells you that I would work myself to death, literally, I would beat anyone. So I will probably be very competitive in a corporate setting, and I would probably be absorbed by it. So I think at the end of the day, we just kind of have to remember, what are we gonna why do we do what we do? I think that's the best reminder that we have to set ourselves, other than, anything else that is happening, because, you know, anything can happen to our businesses or anything like that. But, you know, what do you hold on to? That's the most important question.
I say legacy, 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 you know, and a lot of people don't understand that until they have kids. You know, what are you leaving? What are you doing? What's the benefit? What's the reward if you can't take it with you? I could die at any moment, you know, leaving my children, my wife to fend on their own. But that's the goal, is to leave them with something. So I appreciate you coming on here today, Israel. This has been great. Getting to know you a lot better. Hopefully everyone else who sees this gets to know you a lot better. I'm glad you're in a very happy position and you're doing smashing, man. For anyone who doesn't know what Ad Central is, I'll leave some links in the comments below, and the site links. The software is available for download now if you don't know. And appreciate you coming on. Anything you want to say?
No, I really appreciate this time, and it's great to, you know, to talk with you. I think it's great. Like, sometimes we kind of see each other or talk, you know, briefly, but like, we've never spent time, you know, doing this, and it's always fun. So thank you so much for doing this, man. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
I like getting a new perspective, giving people the idea there's a lot more than just Facebook out there, you know?
Yeah, life can be super happy, life can be super sad. I'm trying super hard to separate the good and bad. I go back to my future just to get to my past, but knowing me, my DeLorean